Welcome to Progress in San Diego, Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. I'm your host, Walter Davis. And with me this evening, I have the honor to have Jeannie Brown, the San Diego, California coordinator of California Common Cause. And I also have Simon Majewski. And Simon, you're on the board, correct?
That's correct.
A state board of Common Cause.
Okay.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Walter. It's a pleasure to be here.
Certainly, certainly. So tell me something about you and your background first before we get into California Common Cause.
I'm a retired high school teacher. I taught math and science for over 30 years. And when I decided to retire, I wanted to get active and help the community, and I got involved in Common Cause because it's a nonpartisan but political organization that is working to be the lobbyist for the citizen. The founder of Common Cause, John Gardner, said that everyone has a lobbyist except the citizens. And so that's where it was started 40 years ago.
Wow, that's a unique concept, you know,
Yes.
a lobbyist for the citizen.
Right.
That's what we need, huh?
He was a Republican who was in a Democratic administration, and he saw that there were a lot of things that we all have in common, that, you know, good government, honest government, transparency, good education for our children, health, clean water, clean air, all those things all citizens should care about.
So those are more ethical concerns. I think that people tend to get watered down with moral values because a lot of people have different moral values, but we generally have the same ethical concerns when you talk about critical thinking. It's a balance between ethics and morality. And so what I've determined is that the common ground for us is what you just said, the things that all citizens are concerned with, regardless of what the racial background, gender, political party, etc.
Exactly, exactly. And, you know, a good future for their families, for their children, and hopefully that, you know, a strong enough government that we can look out. Government's supposed to be there to look out for the citizen, especially the common man.
And we're going to get further into that. I know you have a lot to say about that topic, and that's something that I think most Americans might be very concerned about. And so, Simon, tell me something about you, sir.
Well, I'm a software developer, a computer programmer, if you will. Been doing that for over 20 years. I'm still working. Common Cause is my sort of home away from home and job away from my job. After the 2004 elections, I felt a need to get more involved, and I attended a few events, joined a couple of organizations, and I wound up being at a Common Cause event when Common Cause was first coming back to San Diego. And the people I met there, what we were doing, the nonpartisan nature of it really brought me, I felt like I was coming home to a good place to be. So that's what got me involved with Common Cause. Common Cause is, our little logo, if you will, is holding power accountable. And I think that's key, especially right now, with making people understand that government needs to be accountable to the people. The people also need to give government a chance to do the right thing.
So, and that's what we see in France. We see that when the population in France gets upset about something, they hit the streets in large numbers, and I think their government fears the people. But it appears as though our government doesn't fear us as voters, because we don't unite. We're divided on so many different levels, and we don't get active. Some of the ridiculous things that are going through the Supreme Court, for example, and some of the laws that are being passed are just outrageous. I have people talking, but what are they doing about it?
Well, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot about it. The recent Supreme Court decision seemed to outrage a lot of people that had been very comfortable sitting at home and saying, wait a minute, this has gone too far. And this has been the Supreme Court giving more power to the corporations was something that was actually started not long after the Civil War. Back in 1886 was the first Supreme Court decision that basically said that corporations have the same rights as people. Before that, corporations had a responsibility to the people. And it was considered corporations' right to exist. When our founding fathers wrote the Constitution, they put corporations under the review of states so that they could be watched carefully. The founding fathers felt that corporations, remember we had the Hudson Bay Corporation, the West Indies Corporation, all those, they were sent by the imperial powers from Europe to basically come to the New World to take the riches away, you know, and so the founding fathers, the colonists, did not like the idea of corporations. So they only allowed corporations to exist with very short charters, 10 or 15 years, and that they could only make a profit if they could prove that they were a benefit to the people. And if they weren't a benefit, they could revoke those, the corporate compacts, charters. And so that's how it was for the first 100 years or so of our country. But then there was a change. There was a Supreme Court decision in 1868 that changed and gave corporations the power to the same rights as people. So little by little, they've been going through the Bill of Rights and getting, you know, all the rights of, you know, First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment rights, and that has completely changed. This last thing was kind of the final straw, that all of a sudden it's just like, you know, they've got all the rights, and yet they can live forever. You know, they no longer have a short lifetime of 10 or 15 years, and so they're almost like super citizens.
So you said the last thing. What was the last thing?
Oh, the last thing was what we call the Citizens United decision. It was actually something just, it started from a decision about they were going to show a video on called Hillary, and the question was, could it be shown, and all that. Did it fall under the purview of the McCain-Feingold restrictions on campaign spending? And the Supreme Court decided not only to look at those merits, but also looking at campaign finance and how corporations, how they could use their money in campaigns. And this allowed them to go into their treasuries. So if you're a stockholder in a corporation, you don't have a way of keeping the corporations, the boards can choose to take money out of the treasuries and spend it on campaigns that maybe you don't even, the stockholders may not even approve of.
And what was so powerful by doing that, in the past, corporations could still give money to candidates for elections, but they had to put it into a PAC, a political action committee. And once that money went into that, it was like giving it somewhere else, right? So once that money went out, it could only be spent there. And that's the only way that the corporation could spend money, would be move it from their treasury into the PAC. When that was changed, now you have a situation where you don't even, if you're a corporation, you don't even have to spend the money. If you're trying to intimidate me, or you're trying to say, you know, if you don't vote the way I want you to, I'm going to give all this money to your next competitor in the next election. Before, you had to actually give the money, but now you could just be told, we're going to do this, and the money never has to leave the treasury. So it expands the power of that money. You see what I mean? Because you can threaten this person, this person, this person, because there's no accountability now. That money is just part of the corporate treasury. So it was a...
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, because let's say a corporation has $1 million to spend, and they want certain legislators to vote a certain way. They can take that $1 million and say, unless you vote this way, we're going to use this $1 million against you in your next campaign. And they don't just have to use that $1 million against one person, just the threat can be used against 20 legislators. And they may, in the end, not even have to spend the money, because the 20 legislators do their bidding. And that's what's really dangerous. I mean, you know, the individual citizen doesn't have that ability to do that.
And so
nor should they.
We have a website that's going to appear at the end of the broadcast, and you can get in touch with me, and we have a watchdog group that actually posts the information on how much money is going from corporations and which politicians are receiving X amount of dollars. So those of you in the audience that want to learn more about that, please contact me at the number and the website that's going to appear at the end of the broadcast. So this is outrageous. So what is happening now is that the government can't act for the good of the people because we have the best government that money can buy.
Exactly.
And so our politicians, and we can see this in our own local area. For example, how long have they been working on Interstate 15? Interstate 15 has been progress in work for what, 60 years or 50 years or something? And so we need mass transit. We need levitation trains, but instead, is it the concrete lobbyists that are making us build these roads that are going to be obsolete once they're completed 50 years from now? So decisions are not being made for the good of the American people.
Exactly. And that sort of leads into campaign finance reform, that one way we can fight against this, well, there's actually 3 big things that could stop this. The hardest way, but the most effective, would be a constitutional amendment. But a constitutional amendment, as we've seen, is very hard to, you know, the Equal Rights Amendment, which is a very obvious thing that women should have the same rights as men, and yet we still couldn't get that passed. So constitutional amendments are extremely hard to pass, and yet that would be the most effective. We also have the Disclose Act, which is a way of, so at least if they're giving all this money, people can find out who is giving to who, and so that you know where, you know, they're voting a certain way because of where their funds, what the funds are coming from. But and then the third way is a thing called the Fair Elections Now Act, which is a way of campaign finance reform for Congress, you know, senators and House of Representatives. And they're trying to get that on the floor right now. That they tried to get it through at the lame duck Congress, but that wasn't possible. There just wasn't enough time. So they're trying to get that. And if people let their congressmen know that they want that Fair Elections Now Act passed, that would give funding for members of Congress, so they wouldn't have to go to special interests to get money for their campaigns. They would have a funding source, and that would be a very effective way to spend money for our Congress.
So this damaging effect of these corporations is rippling through our society. We have these companies that are more concerned with the bottom line for the stockholders as opposed to what's best for the American people.
Exactly.
So people are being laid off from work. Automation is coming into the workplace and replacing jobs, which is inevitable.
Yes.
But the emphasis is on the stockholders and not on maintaining employment. So as you said before, these corporations are not benefiting the community. They're taking away and giving to people that are stockholders as opposed to having employment.
Right.
So they're destroying small businesses, they're destroying our economy, and they are manipulating local, state, and national leadership.
Exactly.
To do what they want them to do.
Right. And keep in mind, we're not against corporations in that, you know, existing. I mean, there's some wonderful corporations out there. But the groups that are fighting to get more and more rights to the corporations are not helping are not helping our country. When one group has so much more power than the other, and has so much more money, and money is power, then it's not good for the country as a whole.
Yeah, money's being used almost as a weapon. You know, it's not like marching down the street with machine guns, but the sort of power that money has now provided makes it seem like that's what's going on. Luckily, you know, many citizens are starting to realize that this is not maybe the best thing for them to going on. Wisconsin, the events in Wisconsin over the past month plus, I think have woken up a lot of people who felt that, you know, I've got to worry about, you know, putting food on the table, and I've got to worry about myself, and I really can't be too concerned with the outside, with other people in other places. They saw the power of people coming together in Wisconsin and are starting to think, you know, we can do that too. At the same time that's happening, of course, we're seeing in the Middle East where Egypt, you know, sort of changed hands, and other countries are also making moves there too. So,
yes, and collective bargaining that is really what has created the middle class. You know, being able for people to fight for their rights. There are so many young couples today that don't realize, you know, how things used to be. There was no maternity leave. There was no paternity leave. There was, you know, there wasn't a 5-day work week. There wasn't a 40-hour work week. All of those things, we could lose many of those things, and that's what has created our middle class. And we're fighting for it, and it's just amazing that people can work against the middle class, and the middle class isn't screaming, saying no. You know, this is wrong.
Well, that's really a shame that we have this going on, and people are not being active. People are complacent, it appears, in terms of all this going on in a large measure.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard of the term bread and circuses?
I have.
Yes. And that's, I think, is for the people at home that haven't heard that, that's how it was explained, how Rome, I think it was it Nero or one of the Roman emperors that explained how he could control the people. And you give them bread and circuses. So if people have plenty to eat and they have entertainment, then the government can do what it wants. And that's what happened in ancient Rome. And I'm afraid that's what's happening, bringing a lot of complacency that we see in this country today.
That's just horrendous, and it's unbelievable that people in the face of all of this happening don't do anything. So tell me again, when did Common Cause begin?
40 years ago, 1970.
40 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Wow. And so, what other kind of issues is Common Cause working on a national and local level?
Well, the Common Cause stepped up and stepped out and raised the attention on the Koch brothers. And now, you know, people didn't know who these folks were, didn't know anything about them. Most folks had never even heard of them. And I think it's safe to say now that a lot of people do know about them. How did that happen? Well, Common Cause here in California actually started, we found out that the Koch brothers were going to be having their next meeting in Palm Springs. And word went out. We reached out to other groups. We formed a sort of a coalition, and we had over 1,000 people show up at the rally in Rancho Mirage. We haven't had those large groups of people since, you know, the anti-war days, and it was tremendous. It shocked, you know, the Koch brothers, and we were there. We hopped on the bus and went along with them, and we're holding our signs and picketing, and the camaraderie, the number of different kinds of people who were there, groups of people, people who didn't make a lot of money, middle class folks, labor.
Wealthy people,
it was
too.
tremendous. Wealthy people too. It was really tremendous. So we got that ball rolling. We're looking into, yesterday, Bob Edgar, who is the president and CEO of Common Cause, delivered over 30,000 petitions to the Justice Department, because we've been trying to get the Justice Department to investigate Judges Scalia and Thomas because of their connections to the Koch brothers. They have been going to their secretive meetings and listening and talking, and the very same things that the judges have been ruling on are the issues in which the Koch brothers are most interested in. So this doesn't look good to us. The Supreme Court is supposed to be above it all. We don't think that's the case. We want an investigation. So Common Cause is doing that.
Yeah, right now there are no rules forcing judges, the justices in the Supreme Court, to recuse themselves. Now, along the way, because most justices, they've been judges all, moving up from the lower benches to the higher, they used to recuse themselves if they have, any prior knowledge or conflict of interest in any way. They step back and they say, okay, I shouldn't get involved with this. And yet these justices are not recusing themselves when we really believe that they should. They are showing that they have friends in high places, and they are making decisions that are benefiting these friends. And that shouldn't be happening, so, especially at the Supreme Court level.
We're seeing rampant corruption in the court system on the local and national and statewide level now. I mean,
I don't know if you want to call it rampant. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a good court system. I think California too is with no matter what career you get into, there's going to be some bad teachers, some bad lawyers, some bad doctors, whatever it is.
Probably a greater degree than what most American people believe.
Well,
we just did a story. We just did a series of stories on California Coalition for Families and Children, and some very interesting things have come out. So this is a continuing series, and so the epiphany for me is now to see this or see evidence of this on a national level to this degree, and so it sort of speaks to why the local courts are getting away with some of the illegal things that are happening here in San Diego County. So we're down to our last 5 minutes. I want to make sure you get your most, see how fast it went by, huh? I want to make sure you get your most important points in to the public right now, because we only have like 5 minutes left. So I'll turn it over to you to say what you need to say.
Well, one of the things that Common Cause is doing here locally is we're helping a group called Neighborhoods for Clean Elections. Just as I was saying earlier that about Clean Elections or Fair Elections Now Act in Congress, we are trying to get a Clean Elections Bill initiative on the November 2012 ballot. And if we can do that, this would be a voluntary way for candidates to have a way of funding their candidacy. And these are candidates that have been proven to be viable candidates, not just anyone that has this daydream of becoming a candidate. But viable candidates could run for mayor or city council or city attorney, and these people would have enough money to get the word out. And so we could get local community activists who could represent their neighborhoods, and they would be somebody that you could vote for, rather than just somebody who has a lot of money themselves or very wealthy friends that they will be doing their bidding. And that's one of the problems that we're having with the city of San Diego. As we see, we're making our city is making a lot of decisions that are benefiting a few rich people.
We're
And,
down to our last 2 minutes, and I want to give Simon a chance.
Okay. On the same topic, if you'd like to learn more information
I can't give a website.
about this,
Don't give a website.
no,
Okay.
there will be. I will be giving a lecture, a presentation with plenty of discussion on Saturday, April 2nd, at the Sarah Mesa Library at 10 o'clock until 12. Come visit and learn about clean elections in San Diego.
And we'll be posting information on the San Diego County Community Coalition website regarding Common Cause on a regular basis to keep the public updated. And I want to thank you for joining us this evening. Please get involved with Common Cause and be involved as citizens, as we are right here. This station, or this show rather, is run by everyday people. And stay tuned for Lee Smith Cooper's show that's going to be coming on at 6 p.m. right after mine. And look for Laura Thompson's show, Community Artist Connection, that comes on Wednesday nights at 9:30. Come out and join us and become a citizen journalist yourself. Learn to operate your own television production. We're on the internet. You can catch our previous shows by going to our website and getting the links there to watch our previous television shows. I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening, and come back every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Progress in San Diego. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your host, Walter Davis, and I want to thank my volunteer crew that's here working on the set with us this evening. Some of the people that are here, this is their first time being on a television camera, and it's simply remarkable in terms of what we're doing as everyday citizens. And we're encouraging you to get involved and to stand up for your rights, to get involved with organizations like Common Cause that are working for your behalf, and they need your support, they need your help, as well as the coalition. Once again, I want to thank you very much for joining us, and please come back again and visit us. My name is Walter Davis. Thank you.
Thank you.